kindness doesn't mean I'm weak.
This is RacerRed, the one and only. So this is our first sunny day after quite a few days of snow. I think we're gonna have snow again this week in the forecast. It's weird how your perspective changes. If it was summertime and 30 degrees out, there's no way I would be riding. But I think it's around 30 right now and it feels warm just because the sun's out. All I have on is just a sweatshirt and then my riding jacket. It's summertime and the temperature drops down to like 60 degrees. You're like, holy crap, I'm not even gonna go riding today. We got record-breaking snow this year. There's been a whole bunch of snowstorms. It dumped on us the first couple times, and at that point I figured it would stop, but then it just kept dumping. A bunch more storms came through. I think we've had 5 or 6 snowstorms come through. But it's surprising how fast it melts too. Like right now, this is nothing compared to how it was even just a few days ago. Actually, a couple nights ago, it was snowing. The ground was covered. Pretty surprising how quickly it all melts. Streets are pretty dry right now. Inclement weather like this is where dirt biking experience really helps. There's a lot of sand on the road and different road conditions that require different riding styles. Dirt biking is one of those things, like, it's the funnest form of riding a motorcycle in my opinion, but it also takes a very tough person to learn how to ride properly. There's a trial by fire when it comes to riding a dirt bike. If you become a good dirt bike rider, then you're pretty tough. That's why it's so rare for a girl to ever become really proficient at riding a dirt bike. Because dirt bike riding seems really cool. You see other people going out, and the really good riders can go out and hardly ever crash, go out and find and experience new places that most people would never see just because it's really hard to get to, even to hike. But so there's definitely a reward for learning how to ride a dirt bike really well, but most people never get to that point, even guys. Most people, I would say, get a dirt bike thinking they will have that experience, and they never push themselves and never go through that trial. And it literally takes a year or two of just straight crashing and pushing yourself through technical terrain. And it's pretty brutal. I mean, dirt biking is just a brutal sport, but after you get through all that for 1 or 2 years, then you're a good rider and you don't have to worry about it too much anymore. I mean, dirt biking is always, it's a controlled risk. Like, you always have to analyze the situation and ask yourself, well, do I have the skill to make this? Or, you know, what would be the best angle? You have to constantly be on your feet. I'm definitely not immune to crashing a dirt bike, that's for sure. I don't crash hardly at all anymore, but there was a time when I was absolutely brutalized for a couple of years trying to get through technical terrain. So most people will get a dirt bike and they will take it out to the desert and they will learn how to ride. Some of them come from the street, but they'll learn how to ride just enough to where they can roll around basically on the flat ground and ride around dirt roads and stuff like that, never really developing their skill level. And then that becomes boring to them, but they, at the same time, they never take it out to the single track because they're too scared. I've seen this the most with female riders. I mean, nothing against female riders. There's 1 out of every 1,000 or something like that that actually makes it through the other side. I've seen some good riders that are female, but in Idaho there's like, I mean, just looking at the racing crowd, there's like 2 females that have become pretty good riders. And because it takes a tough person mentally and physically to actually become a good dirt bike rider. People don't understand until they actually get into it how brutal it is. I've crashed so many times, thousands of times. I've been landed on a few times in races. If you race, then it amplifies your risk factor even more, but I've landed on people several times. I cased a homemade double one time and got severely concussed. I've been concussed like 3 times racing and riding. I've dislocated both shoulders. I was pretty sure I broke my leg one time, but it ended up not being broken. I'm pretty sure I actually did break my upper back, but I never went to the doctor for it. I could just barely walk for probably about 6 months. I have broken toes. I got impaled by a broken branch one time on a trail. Luckily I had my chest protector on, so it just snapped off right after it penetrated my chest protector. I've landed sideways off of jumps and face planted my face onto the handlebars. Like the end of the handlebar went through my helmet and poked me in the face. Giant black eye. I'm lucky I have an eye. Honestly, if you're a good dirt bike rider, then you have actually gone through the trial by fire and came out the other side, and that's pretty impressive. Especially for the female riders. Usually they do it just to be cool, you know, they get their brand new bike and their cool fancy looking gear and stuff, and then they go dink around on flat terrain. My recommendation would be to take a few rides out in the desert to start with and practice your turning, practice balancing, practice your clutch work, get in some little ravines and stuff and practice climbing out of them, and then head to the single track. That's if you want to develop your skill. That's the only way to do it. You'll notice little by little that you're getting to be a very, very good rider. The best thing you can do is get all the proper gear. So get your helmet and boots are the main thing. I wouldn't even recommend riding a dirt bike without boots and a helmet. As long as you have those 2 things, you're pretty much covered. But if you're gonna go out and do some serious riding and try to develop your skill, then I would recommend just putting everything you can on. There's no harm in putting a chest protector on, pants, jersey, elbow guards, knee guards, and most likely if you have all that stuff, you're not going to get hurt out trail riding. You can bounce around and fall on dirt. There's give to dirt. I mean, it's not going to hurt you if you're out trail riding and you have full protection on. It shouldn't hurt you unless you're riding on hard surfaces like rock and stuff like that. My first motorcycle was a Honda Z50. And I crashed it the first time I ever tried to ride. It was actually just me and my older brother, and it was his bike at the time, and he let me try to ride it, and I ended up falling over. I think I just bent the lever or something, but I ended up just falling over in our driveway. That was my first dirt bike experience, was on a Z50. Tell me about your guys' first dirt bike experience. I'd like to hear from you, actually. And if you haven't ridden dirt bikes, then tell me about your first street bike experience. This is RacerRed, and I'm out.
His name is RacerRed. If he wasn't riding, he'd be in bed. He naps during the day. He rides his love in garage bays. Oh, he rides all night, full throttle all the time. Oh, he was born to ride. Red Racer, like, comment, and subscribe.